Welcome everybody to Haven of Horror. This is a second week of our Decades of Horror. It's a little hot, so forgive my brain being scrambled. I've got Doolittle with us this time, and we are talking about the creature from the Black Lagoon. Now,
hmm
Doolittle, you said that you had some interesting takes on this, which I'm excited to hear. Because I'm going to be honest, my biggest takeaway is this is a kind of like the stepchild of the Universal monster movies. It does not like fit in with the rest that I've seen so far.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about this film is it's very much of its time, which you can kind of say that about the other ones as well, but this one's definitely like, we were very into the kind of the creature feature kind of film, right? Beast from 20,000 Fathoms also kind of falls into this category. you know, them, stuff like that. And, it's definitely following in that kind of train of thought. And also, it's not an adaptation of a literary piece. This is an original creation. As far as I am aware, it kind of is inspired, I think, from something, but it's not like a specific novel or book. That's the main difference, or novella. Like it's very much just kind of stands on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly enough, this was originally going to be a 3D film.
Well, it was. In some places, I believe it was screened in 3D, and you can kind of tell while watching it because there's some effects that like. One part that stuck out to me was when they were underwater and the bubbles were towards the screen.
Yeah.
Um, and there's also some releases that have the I can't remember what it's called, but there's a certain kind of like it's the blue and red 3D glasses, right? Like with some like VHSs and DVDs. They released it with that, I think. But yeah, it kind of it was. I think it was like kind of split, So some screenings had 3D, some screenings didn't, as far as I'm aware, at least.
So from what I could see here, um, they realized that the fad was fading fast by 1954. So
I see.
most people saw it in the flat 2D. However, a lot of the larger downtown theaters would show the 3D version. I'm not
hmm
sure what 50's 3D was, but it didn't get the red and blue release, if I'm understanding this correctly, until 75.
Oh, interesting. Well, I had a feeling that that was a thing later, the red and blue, because I remember that was a big thing in the 80s. Was everything's got to be in 3D or whatever.
Yeah, you get Friday the 13th, and I mean that trend continued all the way through. Even Freddy's Dead uses 3D
Yeah, very infamously, but yes, that is
very
true.
poorly too. But you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah,
so my I guess the biggest issue with talking about this, like most of these Universal monster movies, is they're not very complicated, which is a blessing and a curse.
right.
Um,
This is a very simple like team of scientists or discover this new thing, new life form or whatever, and they're investigating the area, kind of a thing, Like it's and they stumble upon something that they probably shouldn't have. Um, it's very, very like we've seen this before.
yeah, and I have big gaps in my knowledge of the whole Universal monster period.
Yeah.
But I've seen a few of them now, and at this point, it's like the slashers, what slashers would become, where we have to follow the formula. There's a
hmm
monster, he falls in love with the girl, he's misunderstood, and then he dies.
Yeah.
And I love the monster design. The performance is fine, like
Yeah.
just generic monster.
Yeah.
Um, but this, I could tell this was getting to the point where like Universal was kind of running out of ideas.
Well, and it is the last of the cycle. Or yeah, I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's the last of the Universal monster cycle. He's the last like iconic monster for sure. Um, And yeah, so my thing is the monster design is awesome. That's my favorite design of all the Universal monsters. Like it's really really cool. And I like the okay, so the thing about him being like misinterpreted by everybody is really funny because they play this like super threatening music every single time he's like on screen. So it's definitely like a dissonance there, you know, with that, which is pretty cool, I guess.
Well, and it's when he's misunderstood, but the feeling that I got was not necessarily that he is a good guy, it's just he wouldn't have been hostile if they had attacked him first.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, I don't, and I kind of want to refrain from bringing up The Shape of Water too much, but considering, that's like one of my favorite movies, and it's definitely has informed the way I see this film in some ways, because Del Toro famously was supposed to make a Creature from the Black Lagoon remake. And the way he interprets Creature from the Black Lagoon is it's like a home invasion movie where like the creature's just minding his own business, and then these people hop in or whatever, and then kill him. And he's like, that's kind of messed up, you know. And
I
if you
actually
read it
agree
like
with
that,
him on that.
no, yeah, I mean, it's like it is like unnecessarily like why they didn't have to do that, but like it is interesting to read into that. And like there's some like themes you could like project onto the film with that reading, some like political subtext perhaps where we as human beings like, the way that like our nature with conquering stuff, stuff like that, and I don't want to get like too political, but I something interesting about that. And I don't think these people were thinking about that necessarily. But just through the zeitgeist of the time, it is kind of interesting seeing where maybe subconsciously they were heading in with the narrative focus.
Well, it's a 50s version of King Kong, right? These
Yeah.
scientists stumble upon this creature's home and like, well, we're scientists, we can do whatever the fuck we want. Whereas in
Hmm.
King Kong, it was filmmakers. Um, and then you got the monster, and like they are hostile towards it, so it becomes hostile towards them, and it falls in love with the
Hmm.
woman. Um,
Yeah, and I think that King Kong is definitely more sympathetic in a lot of ways, mainly because of the perform like well, okay, it's not a performance in King Kong, it's stop motion. Although there is some uh like uh not animatronics, like puppeteering in King Kong. But like the way that King Kong behaves in that movie is very much like a real animal. And even though it's the 30s, he feels very alive and like definitely has like needs and desires. Whereas in Creature from the Black Lagoon, it's not as much of that. Like he feels more like a beast in this film, which is interesting. Like he feels more like just kind of like an animal, uh, without like any like emotion really, I guess. Although he does look cool, and I like the effects with the like the side of his like figure, where it kind of goes like up and down, inside and out.
Absolutely. When we reviewed the original King Kong, one of the things that I noticed, because that had been the first time I'd seen it in forever, is
Hmm.
they focus a lot on giving Kong quirks and little things that make him feel human, even though he's a giant claymation gorilla.
Yes.
Whereas this, he's generic monster number 700.
Yeah, and he's played by two people. I think two people. And
Ben
I mean, don't. What's up?
Ben Chapman when he is on land, and Riku Browning when they're underwater.
Yes, and they're legends, for sure. Because I mean, if you're the original Gilman, I mean, that's pretty baller. Um, but it is kind of interesting how that in and of itself kind of shows in a way, because like it's not a consistent like performance in the way that like I don't necessarily believe this is the same like beast, I guess. I feel bad. I don't want to come off too negative about this film because it is very entertaining, thoroughly entertaining. Like it's a really fun movie to have on like with friends over for sure. Like it's really fun. But it's just not as strong as the other Universal monster movies, I think, in my opinion.
Oh, don't worry. We've probably already been canceled for my opinions on the Wolfman.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah.
I thought that movie
Um,
was kind of bland. In fact, it's
mm, mm,
interesting because I think that movie is almost the opposite of this, where the human character stuff was like, okay, and I was kind of interested in the mythology, but the monster looks terrible, and I don't think the performance is all that great.
mhm.
Whereas this, the human characters are kind of bland, and the monster's kind of bland, and I don't care. I don't know what the mythology is supposed to be here all that much, but the monster design is one of the best things I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, no, it's a wonderful design work. Not I don't and Jack Pierce I don't think had anything to do with this version like this film. I'm blanking out on the name, but it's someone else. But it's a great design. Um, but yeah.
So from what I can see here, the design was by Millicent Patrick, who was a Disney animator, but
Oh,
she was
interesting.
downplayed by the makeup effect artist Bud Westmore, who for half a century got sole credit for the creation.
Oh, that's really sad. I didn't know that.
I
And
didn't,
that
yeah.
well, and that actually kind of explains a lot because the design is so well drawn, which sounds kind of horribly kind of simplistic the way I put it because oh, animator drawn, duh. But like the kind of techniques they were learning at Disney at the time, with design work and all that stuff, like if you put any of those designs against a silhouette, they're gonna stand out. And you can say the same for Gilman, So I wish that she did get credit for that, but I guess it's good now that she is, because she did a really good job.
Yeah. It
Kind of
should
goes
be.
without saying. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm glad that we're finally starting to give people who worked on stuff like this credit.
Hmm.
It should be noted this is directed by Jack Arnold,
Yes.
who was picked because of the 1953 film House of Wax, which is
Which
infamously,
was in
or famously, I guess I should say, a Vincent Price film.
hmm And it's in 3D,
Oh
which
yeah.
yeah, which was a big thing again. Going back to the 3D thing, and there's a really fun scene. Um, I think it's in House of Wax where they're playing. Okay, never mind. I can't remember the thing that they were playing with, but there was like a thing that they were playing with that kept going into the screen, which I thought was kind of amusing without the 3D glasses, because I was like, okay, this is it's kind of going on a bit long. But fun film though. Definitely kind of eerie with the wax figures, and it's cool that he got to do this.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, because again, I think that that movie is also very entertaining in a not a B movie kind of fashion, but like in a like like it's a fun time kind of fashion. I think this is a fun time. Like it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just very fun.
Well, and it should be noted they got a science fiction director instead of a horror director, and I think
Yeah,
that helps me put a lot of this movie into context because they don't shoot the monster like a monster; they shoot it like a creature.
yeah. Well, and especially like the shots of the creature's like webbed fingers coming onto the boat or whatever, like you're like, oh man, you know. It is shot okay, and like those shots would become stuff in like horror movies, and you do see stuff like that in horror movies, but that is something in like science fiction creature feature films from the time, you know.
Mhm. So, where do you rank this in your universal ranking if you have one?
Uh, yeah, that's hard. Probably like if I had like a top 10, I think this would be like 8, I think. Because it should be up there, but like it's nowhere near my favorite. Like it's not my top 5, but it's like thoroughly entertaining and it's really fun. So it's number 8.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen about 6 of these now, and it is my number 5. Now, for
Okay.
anyone listening, that is not an indictment of its quality. Just keep in mind that the ones that above it are Bride of Frankenstein, Frankenstein, Invisible Man, and Dracula. Like, if you
Mhm.
think that that is better than any of those movies, I'm sorry, but you're delusional. Um,
Yeah, well, and I mean that's understandable, you know, like the movies you listed are like really and especially the Frankenstein movies are excellent.
mhm,
Like James Whale was just on some next level stuff with that those films.
absolutely. And it is also, I think it is to keep important that watching these all so close to the together, you start to notice the formula. And like, I'm a slasher fan. I'm fine with a formula, but I can see why the Universal monsters were on their way out because this formula gets tired real quick.
Yeah, and I wasn't around last week. Although I mean I am very like familiar with these movies, so I can understand where you're coming from with that. I still think they're very entertaining. But I can understand why they died down the way they did at the time.
It's just the cycle of horror. Now,
Mm, mm,
obviously, we have The Shape of Water, which is, Del Toro's take on this. But I
yeah.
would like to see them do this concept again, but maybe fill it out a little bit more because I think the issue that I've had with all these so far, and I get that it was the times and whatnot, but they don't let any of these concepts breathe. You know,
Yeah. Well, okay, and that's interesting because I think going back to Del Toro and The Shape of Water, I speculate what exactly his version of Creature from the Black Lagoon would have been like, because we know that it was going to be a love story like Shape of Water between Gilman and the woman. And we also know it would have followed Gilman more specifically and it'd be like an adventure, which sounds a lot like his Frankenstein. Um, but
Universal, just give the monsters to Del Toro. I'm begging you.
yeah, 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 for sure. They really should do that. Um, because he's just the obvious choice. But watching Shape of Water, I wonder because Shape of Water is very much about like white patriarchy, like that's the villain of the film. And I wonder if Del Toro wanted to talk about that in Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I think that there are places where you can implement that into the movie, specifically with in making the main human like man hero and protagonist of the film like the antagonist and kind of reinventing that character. I've always like after watching Shape of Water and then rewatching this, that kind of was going through my mind, especially the scene where he's chasing the creature and trying to find him in the cave after he gets the woman. I wonder like if Del Toro like had in his mind like oh like this is like a really dark scene where like this guy's like coming after you or whatever. Like I wonder that I don't know, that just kind of came to my mind, the ways to like flesh out the movie.
Yeah, I could see that because really what we get in this movie is the I don't want to say tired because I think it is a good thing to do in film. And it might
Hmm.
also be me not being able to fully put myself in that headspace of like, this came before a lot of the other things that I've seen that have done this. But really, it's just scientists should be kept in check. Like
Yeah.
scientists should not be allowed to do whatever they want.
Hmm. Well, and also just like leaving people at peace,
Yeah.
um and not messing with like the natural orders of things like too much. um I do think, okay, I feel so bad that we're like trashing on the film this much, but I do think that does get kind of confused because the way it's directed, the creature comes off like more threatening than I think the message of the film like would allow that to go. So again, there's that dissonance, which is like kind of cool, but at the same time, like I don't know, I don't really understand. I don't know, but it is still fun. I don't know. It's okay to have like controversial opinions, I guess.
It is.
about these movies. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go to a show that we've talked about quite a bit for parts of parts of what I think you could have done with this.
Hmm.
So there's an episode of Angel
Okay.
where one of the characters who used to run in a gang that hunted vampires discovers that his gang has been taken over by another guy. This guy doesn't differentiate between good demons and bad demons. He just murders them,
Mm.
whether it's right or wrong. And you find out that he doesn't care who gets hurt in the process. What I would do is something like that, where the monster's not a bad guy. The scientists don't care. They just want the monster.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good way of playing it as well. Because like at that point, no one's really the bad guy except for I guess just kind of they're not even like bad. They're just like extremely flawed at that point, you know? And it becomes like kind of a very human struggle with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so that's I mean that's what I'd like to see if they remake this. Just don't change the design. Just obviously update it a little bit so it's not, because I'm looking at a picture of it right now. It's going to be the picture that people see when they watch this. But I can kind of see like some of the where it's a suit, which is not a criticism, but obviously keep the suit to its the spirit of the original, but update it. And for the love of God, don't CGI it.
Well, I really hope that if they and they we know that they are doing a reboot with Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans.
No, I thought
Because
that was, is that Black Lagoon? I thought that was Bride of Frankenstein.
no, I think that's Black Lagoon. I could double check that really quickly.
I'm checking here
Um,
for you.
oh, okay, cool.
I'm not seeing anything about the Scarlett Johansson one, but I am seeing here that Nicotero and Rodriguez want to remake it.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, that's actually kind of cool. Um, Let me check.
Apparently, James Gunn pitched a creature from the Black Lagoon movie.
Oh, there were a John Carpenter. Um, Austin was talking about it with us a little bit ago, but John Carpenter wanted to remake a Creature from the Black Lagoon in the 90s, which would have been really weird to see that alongside Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula and the Kenneth Branagh Frankenstein. But would have been really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
apparently he pitched it like right after the remake of Dawn of the Dead, and Universal turned him down.
yeah, I'm reading right here. In 2020, it was reported that Universal was considering Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans for a remake.
Yeah, I just saw that here. But I'm
Yeah.
also seeing it that fell apart when that whole dark universe collapsed.
Oh, really?
Universal's in such
Oh.
shambles right now with their plans, like they don't know what they're doing.
Mm. Well, I hope that something happens because I think it'd be really fun to see the Universal monsters in theaters. Um, you know, but I hopefully they just have it be just like fun, low budget, or just like modestly budgeted like horror movies. Just like really kind of fun. I mean, obviously taken seriously, but like kind of cool looks at those like characters.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like their future is going to be at Blumhouse, which I'm fine with. Um, because I mean, as long as they're all to the quality of that remake of The Invisible Man, um, that's somebody has a take, even if it's not like the original exactly.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it, but everything I've heard about that is like the pitch for that movie like is just not The Invisible Man. But um I think that it keeps to that concept and does something really interesting with that idea, you know. And they update it in a really interesting way. So hopefully we get more of that. 'Cause you know, I think that that would be really cool.
I agree. So anyway, back to what we actually came here for. Little tangent there for you guys. So, do you care about any of the humans in this? Like they try with because you got like the main two are engaged or together. Um,
Uh, I appreciated that. Oh my God, I feel like I feel like I'm not like. saying the right things.
You say
I
whatever's in your head, dude.
Oh, no, no, no. I mean, I feel the way I feel, but it's like, oh man, okay. I appreciated that stuff. I didn't really care. I don't know. I thought it was like fun though. I mean, like, okay, I didn't want to like see anyone get like super, obviously. Like, I cared enough about those characters, you know. But overall, I wasn't like super, super invested. Like, they're there for what they're trying to do, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest that there was times where I couldn't even tell some of them apart. Like most
Same.
of them are just generic science man.
Same, which feels really weird to say, but you're kind of right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I knew that like, obviously like the main male protagonist, right? Like that's I obviously know him. Like I can tell him apart.
Right.
And Julie, what's her face? Julia Adams, obviously. I was like, yeah, like I know her, you know. Well,
Hmm.
and obviously her because like she's like an iconic part of the film, and she's like on the poster and everything, you know. With the you know, and the monster carrying the girl is a very iconic image, you know. So obviously you can tell her apart, but like a lot of the other scientist characters, I was like, what's going on?
Absolutely. So we've, and I don't want people to think that I hate this movie because I really don't.
Oh,
So I want to get back into a couple of the other positives I had. Is this movie looks beautiful.
oh yeah,
William Snyder is credited with the cinematography, and I think he does a wonderful job.
yeah. I thought that the cinematography. I also thought the score um by oh god, who did it? Who did the score? Um, the score was really really good. I thought that it was really fun. Like kind of like monster movie score with you know very tense. It definitely like and you know strangely enough it was kind of tense. Like not like I wasn't scared or anything like that, but like you know it's loud and like blaring. You know, so it's
Hmm.
cool.
So there's three listed composers. Music by Henry Mancini, Hans J. Salter, and Herman Stein.
That's okay. That I think that's what was tripping me up was because there's not like one single composer. But yeah, no, they all did a really good job with the music.
I've heard that name Henry Mancini somewhere, but none of these movies are ringing out to me.
Mhm.
He
Oh,
did the
honestly,
Pink
too.
Panther movies. That's
Oh, he
interesting.
did Breakfast at Tiffany's. That's cool. Um, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense actually.
Well, Doolittle, any other thoughts about Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Um, Not really. I mean, it's like I said, it's just a very it's you know, it's in the top 10 for me. Like kind of bottom top 10, but like, you know, it's not bad. It's fun. And it's a very good time. Definitely a good time with friends. Like bring your friends with you to see this one. It's cool.
Yeah, and I wonder how different my experience would have been if I hadn't been watching it like just by myself.
Hmm.
So that is definitely something I would like to try at some point is watching it with other people.
Yeah,
So I guess
for
my
sure.
final question is: would you consider Shape of Water a horror film?
No.
Okay.
No, that is a fairy tale fantasy film for sure. Which makes me like which I like. I think that it's really cool, and there are some like scary like segments, not segments. There's some like tense sequences. It's and there's like instances where it becomes more of like a spy thriller at some points. You know, it's like kind of a hodgepodge of different genres, but it's not really a horror movie necessarily. Although there are some dark moments for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think my final score at the end of the day is going to be 3.5 out of 5, and I would recommend this one, but with the caveat of if you're looking for just a Universal Monster movie to watch, It would not be this one.
I'll give it a 4. Cause while it's not my favorite, it's still really fun, and I personally do think it's like a fun time to watch. Um, I think it's worth watching. I think that I would recommend watching it with friends if you can, but I think you should watch it. If nothing else, but for like just kind of seeing, because I mean, Gilman is such a cultural, like, the legacy of that character and creation is so profound that I think it's worth it to see the film that it came from. So I recommend it on that level, and it also is just kind of fun. There's a lot to kind of look at with this, and if you want to draw your own conclusions on stuff, that's also cool. Um, but yeah, it's I liked it for what it was. In comparison to the other movies, though, it's not my number one.
Right on. Well, guys, that is going to be it for us today. Only one review this week. We will try to get the Fright Night review out next weekend if at all possible. Next weekend, though, will be Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, since Halloween Kills comes out the 15th. I'm excited for those, and we will be back next week with more reviews. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you.